Hello again. Oh, hey, baby.
Oh, hi.
We're live. Come on and join me whenever you're ready. I didn't mean to startle you. It's Naomi Wolf again on the Substack Live show Outspoken. And I am joined tonight by my disclosure husband, also cult figure, famous investigator, commentator, Brian O'Shea. His show is called Investigate Everything, but he's appearing on my show tonight because we haven't seen each other for a while. So it's a chance to get caught up and talk about the issues and that we'll be covering. And what I'm going to be talking about today is, well, two things. And then Brian's got his own list. But in the news, of course, let's start with HB 1312. And those of you who may not know what that is, it is a House bill. HB stands for House Bill. It's a term that's used in state legislatures as opposed to federal, which tend to be SB, Senate bill. And the House bill is in Colorado, the state of Colorado. And when I saw this on social media, I thought, surely not. Surely this is an exaggeration. The description on social media that it deals with transgender youth or trans youth and fostering or parental custody. And on social media, and I just want to say, I always say whenever this very difficult emotional issue comes up, that I support LGBTQ rights. I've been a supporter forever. My mom wrote a famous book about the lesbian community. I grew up in the lesbian community, in effect, in San Francisco. And I wrote my doctoral thesis about a pioneer of the gay rights movement, John Addington Simmons, and the history of the gay rights movement. And I owe the health of my family, which I raised as a single mother for many years, to sort of extended family members who were gay men who, helped me parent and gave the kids a sense of stability and security and community. I mean, I will say till the cows come home that I support legal rights for gay and lesbian people, bisexual people, transgender people. Although we can talk about the etiology of that word, which is pretty recent coinage. These are individuals who in the living past used to be called transvestites or cross-dressers or transsexuals if they'd had surgery on their bodies. So having said all of that, just because I support legal rights and legal equality for gay and lesbian and transgender or transsexual, transvestite people, bisexual people, doesn't mean that absolutely everything is a good idea. And I think that a lot of gay and lesbian people and bisexual people and transgender people agree. And some of them have been making their voices heard. There's a really interesting group called Gays Against Groomers, who makes the case that the kind of proliferation of discourses, as we would say in graduate school, around trans youth is a way to erase the gay, I think is the way they put it. Those are not my words, but I get what they're saying. That this effort, especially in public schools, which is monetized and funded. Brian has found a lot of the money flow from nonprofit organizations to public schools to basically teach an ideology aimed at younger and younger kids, kind of intervening, I would say, in their sexual development, or I would definitely say intervening in their privacy by, just this proliferation of discourses around sexuality for minors, which is, illegal and I think unhealthy. And I say that as a survivor of sexual assault in childhood. But this money flow of, a lot of curriculum material around being trans, right, is coming from a set of foundations, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Pritzker family, as some of you may know, millions and millions and millions of dollars. And these millions and millions and millions of dollars aren't just going to your child's school curricula. And by the way, another awesome organization is PRIE, Parental Rights Education, and also our favorite people in the world, Moms for Liberty. Tiffany Justice and her crew, unbelievable. And again, these are like lesbian moms and, gay couples and people, Democrats, Republicans, independents, people from all walks of life who just don't want their kids sexualized or to have adults intervening in discussion about the kids' sexuality. Remember when we were growing up, I'll speak for myself, I was born in 1962, when we had sex ed in 8th grade, not in 5th grade, it was basically biology. It was human reproductive biology, and it was not sexy. It was not seductive. It was not confusing. It's like here's the urethra, and here's the, seminal vesicles, and over here are the ovaries, and this is how an ovum is fertilized, right? That's what you got. And no one was talking to us about our own sexuality, our own sexual feelings. We still had privacy around those. And, in retrospect, I think that was a very good thing. Because there's this proliferation, as I said, of discourses. So the money's not just flowing to curricula and, Trans Day of Visibility or LGBTQ Day of Visibility. And again, I am agnostic, but if you had kind of, heterosexual Day of Visibility, it would be just as intrusive in my view, and weird and prescriptive. Like leave kids' sexuality alone. I feel strongly as a survivor of sexual assault in childhood, that your school should be safe, and your school should be safe. You should be able to focus on school, on your classes, on your books, on your tests, and not have adults talking about sexual desire at you all the time, or even at all, right? It is a groomery environment when adults are constantly talking about teen sexuality. That is my view. So, and I say that again as an absolute supporter of LGBTQ legal rights. Now, the other challenging thing for this weird intervention in our culture, which I believe is not organic, I don't think it comes from the organic, authentic, transsexual, transvestite community. In my whole lifetime of decades being around the LGBTQ community, writing about the LGBTQ community, I never, until like literally 5 or 6 years ago, saw an organized intervention. It kind of interposing, like trans ideology, for lack of a better word, into family life, into, women's spaces, into women's sports. That is not organic. I don't believe that this is not funded and manipulated by outside forces, because it's just not. That intrusiveness and authoritarian controlling behavior is not part of the LGBTQ community that I have known and loved and grown up around my whole life. So I will just say that. And I think more and more people are uncovering the money flows that are kind of using this issue to weaponize division, and really to weaponize intruding on children and other Marxist agendas, right? Weakening of the family. And I say weakening of the family, gay parents, lesbian parents, I don't care, right? Family bonds, and interposing, which Marxists always do, the role of the state. So darling, come on and join whenever you're ready. I'm just going to walk. Hey, baby.
Hey, what's going on?
Good to see you. How
Good to
is
see you as well. It's a rough day.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to talk
Can
about
you
it?
hear me okay?
I hear you. I see you. It's lovely to see you. What's going on? Do you want to talk about it before we
No, it's just everything up here is far away. and so I had to go to the VA hospital for something routine, and it just took forever, And it's been raining every single day up here in the Hudson Valley. So yeah, rough day, but things could be worse.
I'm sorry, sweetheart. Well, it was a beautiful sunny day here in Brooklyn until about an hour ago, and I don't know what to do, how to cheer you up long distance.
I'm cheered up now. We get to talk about the news. I never get to talk about the news with you. You're too tired by the time I want to talk about the news. So, of course, I was going to agree to this.
I'm only tired because I talk about it all day long, but I'm always delighted to talk to you, sweetheart, about that.
Thanks, darling. Should we maybe go somewhere private and and have this discussion in private? Our poor audience. I heard your whole intro. I'm not going to debate, but I will say this.
Sweetheart, you can debate. It's fine.
No, I don't feel like getting into this debate, but I will say this, that I believe in rights for all Americans. I don't think we need to, at this day and age, in this day and age, I don't think we need to say they need to have rights. They need, like, what rights do trans people have that the rest of America doesn't have if they're adults?
You mean what rights do they not have that the rest of America has?
Yeah, what rights do they not have? Or, what rights do they not have?
Well, I was about to make exactly that point, that, my thesis was about very real obstacles, legal obstacles. Hey, everyone, it's Naomi Wolf, and I have a message. President Trump is in the process of what he calls draining the swamp. But many in the MAGA movement and the MAHA movement are asking if he'll expose the entire pandemic. There's enough public evidence for people to be concerned who injected themselves in what has turned out to be a massive experiment. If you were compelled to get the shot for work, travel, maybe you just trusted the system, check out this natural solution formulated by hero Dr. Peter McCullough in collaboration with the wellness company. They just leveled up their original detox formula, and it costs $30 less. We are introducing the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox. It's now conveniently consolidated into a single capsule with 4 times more nattokinase, 500 milligrams of bromelain, and 500 milligrams of turmeric root extract. Nattokinase, an enzyme researched for its anti-clotting effects, may work to break down spike proteins. Combined with bromelain and curcumin, it provides a potent blend for detoxification and cellular support. Crafted with 100% natural ingredients, Ultimate Spike Detox is backed by research. It offers effective support for your cell's natural repair and recovery. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. Peter McCullough, a top freedom-fighting doctor who risked it all to bring you the truth. Head over to dailyclouthealth.com and use the code DailyClout to get 10% off. Plus free shipping. Again, that's dailyclouthealth.com, and use the code DailyClout to get 10% off and get back to that pre-COVID feeling for gay men specifically. And then lesbian women got punished in different ways by the 20th century. Right, I'm getting there, sweetheart. Okay. Why don't you have a martini or something while we're talking?
Everything closes early here, so I'll be having my Native Path, Native Hydrate. Use promo code DailyClout.
Well, I'm sorry that you don't have a glass of wine or something with you, because it does sound like a rough day, but I was just getting there. I was just going to say, in 1964, with the Civil Rights Act, all Americans got legal rights. And by the early 70s, any remaining, and with the Stonewall riots of, I believe, late 60s in New York, state by state by state, by the early 70s, gay men and lesbian women and bisexual people, by extension, secured equal rights. Arguably, someone like Andrew Sullivan would say it wasn't until gay people had the right to marry and be recognized by the state that they had full legal rights. But however you define full legal rights, you're absolutely right, sweetheart. Gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual people do have exactly the same legal rights now that everybody else does. And I was going to say, looking at language and this Marxist shifting and sneakiness around language, that's why it goes from legal rights to visibility, right? Trans Visibility Day. What is visibility? Or if it was heterosexual visibility day, any visibility is so ill-defined. They're not invisible. No one's invisible.
Right.
And I mean, Casper the ghost may be invisible, but it's such a crazy, sneaky weasel word term to sneak in where legal rights used to be rightly demanded, right? So now that everyone has legal rights, it's like, oh no, we need visibility. Well, what is that? And it's always more and more and more defined as more and more and more categories, because again, as you've taught me, that's how Marxists roll. And I made the case before you came to me that in my view, this movement is not organic to the LGBTQ community. So let me go now into a very special thing.
Wait, didn't you want my...
Yeah, baby, talk to me.
Oh, so what I was going to say was, I hear that, and as you said, that day has long passed. 1964 was a long time ago. And when I actually think when I see like the trans community asking to play on women's sports, if they're men, to use female bathrooms or vice versa, it's almost like they're asking for more rights. I mean, because think about it. If you're a pre-op transgender self-identified, you might feel like, hey, you know what? There's a big line in the women's restroom today. Let me just put my hair back, put on a baseball cap. I'll go use the male one. So they're actually getting more rights is what they're demanding. As far as the gay community and the lesbian community, I think they're largely forgotten by the LGBTQ $ whatever else. And that's why such groups like LGBT or LG without the
T.
BTQ, and because a lot of gay men that we know, they don't identify with that. And I had a big argument with my good friend JJ on our show about a year ago, where I was making that argument. I'm like, the LGBTQ doesn't stand, they don't stand for everyone who is gay or lesbian or who's in that acronym.
Right.
As a matter of fact, most of them want to, anecdotally, most of them want to be separated from that and not identified with that movement because it's so radical. And it's constantly changing. You mentioned Marxism, and it's constantly changing. And I think that's by design.
What do you mean?
Well, so what Marxists will do, and actually what communists will do, is they will constantly change the vector of attack. They'll constantly change the language, what it means. They'll constantly change, like language is a big one. The Comintern, which came out of the Soviet Union to spread communism internationally.
Oh.
That's what they were famous for, was changing language.
Really? Like, as Orwell said, newspeak, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what is it, like dangerous speak? Now, but I did say to our good friend, who's a gay man married to another male, I said, you guys kind of screwed up asking for your right to get married. And he's like, well, why is that? I said, well, because let's say you don't really like the dude you're with, but he keeps pressuring you to marry him. You see, prior to you having that right, you always had a good excuse not to get married. But see, now that's gone.
You're so cynical.
Right. I mean, hey, I was a private detective. I saw a lot of bad marriages, trust me. And he thought that was pretty hilarious. But yeah, and the final thing I'll say on that is the next thing. And the reason why there's always a next thing is because communists constantly try out whatever divisive tactic will work. As G. Van Fleet said to me on our interview on Investigate. Sorry, G. Van Fleet is she's a dissident from Loudoun County. She grabbed national attention when she spoke up at a school board meeting about how diversity, equity, inclusion, and critical race theory have no business not only in school but in America. And she grew up in Mao's China, and she wrote a really good book called A Warning to America. She's been on Tucker Carlson and everything. She's great to talk to because she comes from a very common sense kind of working class perspective on things, where And when she sees like the LGBTQ thing, the trans thing, Black Lives Matter, you name it, these things that keep popping up, she said, look, Mao did this all the time. He couldn't do the race thing because, her words, we all look the same. So he actually created two classes, the black class and the red class.
Oh, wow.
Red class was bad, good. Black class was bad. And it was very arbitrary, like now, where I feel a certain way. So you're black class.
Right.
And so but the whole point is to keep things divided. And so
Right.
social uprisings are akin to artillery in the military, because what does artillery do? Yes, it causes destruction, it causes confusion, it causes disorientation, it can cripple the will of people to fight. Well, think about what violent and random uprisings and constant uprisings do. They destroy cities.
Yeah.
They disorient people. They confuse people. They wear people down.
Right.
And so when people see these things, I always say, look, always go back in time, okay, and retweet your stuff and see what you were talking about last year.
Wow.
So with like the anti-Semitism thing that's going on since October 7th, mark my words, when the Marxists are done with radical Islam, they will be othered too. Because if you think about it, the black communities, they got forgotten as soon as illegal aliens became the topic.
Totally.
Look at Chicago; they were dumping tons of illegal aliens into these poor black and Asian neighborhoods.
Right.
And now illegal aliens are. Have you heard much about them? A little, but not much. So they keep shifting focus because they're grabbing onto something, because the revolution must continue as long as it possibly can. And don't forget, anytime there's one of these things, there's some people out there that make a lot of money, especially like Act Blue, or Action Network, the ones that you can use to plan these things. They're almost like a casino. The house always wins.
Explain to people what you mean by what those are and what you can
Sure.
use to plan those things.
Well, Act Blue, I'll explain. I'm sure everyone knows what it is Act Blue is like a fiscal sponsor that anyone can use if they're approved by them. So let's say you have a nonprofit, but you haven't been approved yet. You can sign on with Act Blue. They take a percentage, and then people make donations to Act Blue.
Are you serious? Everyone else has to wait a year and file a ton of paperwork to get a nonprofit status.
No, you could use Act Blue too if they approve you.
And everyone that Act Blue just approves can offer tax deduction.
That's any fiscal sponsor. I mean, that's
I know, but that's so loose. Anyway, please go ahead.
Yeah. So then the payment arm, the payment intake arm of Act Blue of Act Blue is Action Network. So people make their donation to Act Blue, and they go through Action Network. You'll see on the statements, it'll sometimes say Act Blue, but if you are a sub to a sub to a sub of a nonprofit, it'll go through Action Network. But then Action Network is a customer resource management database. So what that means is that you can sign up for Action Network. You can plan your protest on Action Network, and you can upload your files for your signs, your files for your t-shirt. You can plug in widgets for Kinko's and even Uber Eats, Lyft. Make sure you can feed your protesters and get them there.
Protest, basically.
That's why all the signs are in sync so quickly, is because of things like Action Network. So, and then the final thing I'll say about that is, think about that though. There's no checks on who you are when you sign up for Action Network.
Right.
So you could be the CCP sitting in your cubicle.
Another country. Yeah.
Yeah, you could be launching violent protests in U.S. cities, which is exactly what has been happening these last 4 years.
Safer than what you call a shooting war, or a kinetic war, easier to wage, destabilizing the country. Well, let me circle back with those really important points, honey, to the destabilization that I want to show right now, which is what's going on with these trans youth bills. And when you were describing how Marxists create these kind of fake divisive issues or inorganic, I should say, divisive issues to just destroy and distract us, what came to mind was commentators saying that he's teaching in schools, middle school kids, and they can tell you what bisexual means, but they can't do math, right? So I think and I look at the curriculum and it's like just taking up space that used to be, used for civics, PE, music, languages, math, English, literature, Shakespeare, right? And so some of it is just mopping up our kids' intellectual energies. But the other thing is, if you think about the issues that are being chosen, like going into the women's bathroom, which is such a weird, marginal thing for anyone to want to do, right? But suddenly that's the centerpiece.
I mean, I just want to say that a couple times I've used a women's bathroom when no one was in it, and I really was in a hurry. It's a lot cleaner, and it's
it is a lot.
it's just nicer in there.
You have to stay healthy and well at times like this. You know that I often have suffered from mobility issues, and now I don't. Part of my lifestyle is Native Path collagen. So Native Path's collagen formula is made with ingredients that are scientifically developed to increase bone mineral density, support tissue recovery, reduce wrinkles, enhance hair thickness, and strengthen nails. Who wouldn't want more collagen with all of these benefits? So right now, when you visit getnativepath.com/dailyclout, you can stock up on Native Path collagen for up to an incredible 45% off today, plus free shipping. Every order comes with a 365-day money-back guarantee. You can try it risk-free today. It is a single ingredient formula with no fillers, additives, or artificial sweeteners, and it's third-party tested for heavy metals, which makes sure that it's pure and safe. It's flavorless. You can add it to anything. I add it to my oatmeal. You can add it to coffee or smoothies. Its formula makes it more bioavailable, meaning it's absorbed more easily and mixes without clumping. And the best part is Native Path is offering amazing bundle deals, 3 or 6 packs at a fraction of the price of other brands. With over 4 million jars sold, 1 million happy customers, 8,000 five-star reviews, and a 365-day no-risk guarantee, Native Path is a trusted choice, and they offer an 800 number. You can ask any question. A real person is waiting to help. You can join a private Facebook community. I love these people. Share recipes, success stories. So that's getnativepath.com/dailyclout and start your experience of transformation today. And sometimes women are forced to use the men's bathroom, and believe me, nothing is more upsetting.
So. Ironically, they've gotten a lot dirtier since people in some states have been able to use them regardless of gender.
It's all gross. Anyway, can I just circle back to the divisiveness thing and then the bill, baby? Okay. So that's super divisive. And now this bill that I'm about to read to you, it's creating the most divisive set of proposals imaginable, just to freak people out, splinter people, and create a distraction, I would say. So now let me go to the bill itself. If I may, I'm going to present, if I do this, can you see it? No, you cannot. Yes, you can. Oh my God, fantastic. This is, Brian knows I'm such an English major. I'm not, very technologically skilled, even though I co-founded a tech company. We have very talented people to do the technology.
You just hit the add to stage, babe.
Well, I wanted to add it to stage.
But you got to float over to see that option.
Okay, thank you, babe.
You did good.
Okay, well, it's working. So now I'm going to go show you what I'm looking at. Can you see my little cursor there when I move? Do you see that I'm like moving it up and down?
Yep.
Okay, fantastic. So everyone, this is Daily Clout. And this is one of the tools that we built in my company, Daily Clout. And it is an amazing tool, and you've got to sign up for it because you can find any state or federal bill, and you can share it through social media, and you can also see what it says. And down here, we have another fantastic feature, which is top trending bills. And you can see what people are really caring about versus what you're being told to care about. Very, very important kind of mirror of people's concerns. So now let's dive right in over here to legisector.com, which is kind of the even more specialized and fabulous version of BillCam, which we've just launched. And you want to go to legisector.com. You want to sign up for this if you're if you're an elected official, certainly, or staff, but also if you're an advocate of any kind, a citizen who cares about any issue, an investor, if you're in real estate, if you're in healthcare, if you're in any one of 27 verticals. Legisector kind of breaks down state and federal legislation by vertical and gives you like a dedicated custom portal. So this will blow your mind. Here we have HB 1312 in BillCam. And it's a Colorado bill, so it really does exist. The internet was not lying. And it really has been introduced and sponsored. And you'll see that these are all Democrats, right? And so you can look at the bill right on BillCam, and you can see the actual text of the bill right there, and you can read it, and you can go through and read the bill. You can see how it was changed, so that's fascinating and very, very important. And you can see who sponsored it. So if you look down now, I'm going to show all the sponsors. This is a total blue bill, and you can tell by the color of the bar underneath each of these sponsors, right? So it's Democrats, 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 and you can see support by party 100% Democratic. And so far, you've got just the complete Democratic Party behind this bill. It's a Colorado bill. Not only that, you don't have to wade through the text of the bill if you don't want to. This is just a fantastic innovation. I don't know anyone else who's done this, and I want to credit our COO, Amy Kelly, and our developers. But this applies AI to this long, complex bill, and it applies AI to any bill. So you can see an explanation. You can press the explain button. So this is pretty scary. So the explanation is this bill is aimed at providing legal protection, which sounds good, for transgender individuals in the state of Colorado. It includes several provisions to ensure equal rights and treatment for transgender individuals. Well, that sounds very, very neutral. So it creates the Kelly Loving Act for legal protection. That sounds neutral. Now you get into what sounded crazy on social media is really true. Considers dead naming, which is a highly tendentious invented term, meaning if I had a child named Alice who decided when she was 13 that her name was Ellis, if I call her Alice or she, I am dead naming and misgendering this child. All right. So it considers calling this child that I gave birth to, named, and raised Alice or she or a girl, dead naming, misgendering, and threats related to gender affirming healthcare services as coercive control in child custody decisions. So if she wants to sign up for gender affirming healthcare services because her school counselor funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation or the Pritzkers is encouraging her to go from Alice to Ellis and to bind her breasts, which, believe it or not, some school officials have helped teen girls to do or start their quote unquote gender journey. And if I say, wait a minute, you're not a boy, I am, in relation to healthcare services that are gender affirming, I have committed a threat and coercive control, and I can lose custody. It prohibits Colorado courts from enforcing laws from other states that authorize child removal for receiving gender affirming healthcare services. In other words, they can just go ahead and start my daughter Alice on her gender affirming journey, and they can't no one can take the child away from, say, a parent or a guardian who is trafficking my child to change her gender, right? It requires inclusive policies related to chosen names in education providers. This, you guys, is catastrophic. It means that if Alice tells all her teachers that her name is no longer Alice and that all her teachers have to call her Ellis or, Ernie or, Emery or some male name, they have to do it. It requires it. And then the teachers are misgendering or dead naming Alice if they make a mistake. And, think about how much you wanted power when you were 13 years old. Now, just with this one proviso, you get to force your teachers to walk on eggshells around you, to do whatever you say when it comes to your name and your chosen quote unquote gender identification. It ensures gender neutral dress codes in education providers, meaning no one can say, dress like a boy, dress like a girl. In education providers, oh my God, no one can say that teachers need to dress like a boy or dress like a girl. In other words, you can have the teachers with all kinds of incredibly weird sexualized self-presentation, such as some that we've seen in the past. It includes options for legal and chosen names in public entity forms for minors, right? It defines dead naming and misgendering as discriminatory acts and prohibits them in public accommodations. This means if you are, public accommodations are so many things. If you're teaching driver's ed, and you forget, and there's a girl sitting next to you learning to drive or a boy, and you call that person a boy or a girl and you get their name wrong, you have discriminated and you can be sued or worse. And not only that, but in public accommodation, you know what that means? Bathrooms, changing rooms, public gyms, public swimming pools. So if a man walks in going forward to a female restroom in a public place, and it scares people, or walks into a changing room in a public school, a public university, and scares women, if anyone goes in and says, hey, you are a man, you're not allowed in here, they are guilty. That person who is saying you're a man, you're not allowed in here, is guilty of discrimination, and they can be sued. All right. So it is a complete heck show. Like, I don't know how to say this without using bad language. All the sponsors are Democrats. So now I'm going to show you something else incredible. You can share this right onto Twitter. Do you see that? Everybody, I just shared this bill to 450,000 people on Twitter. You can share it. People can reply. You can share it on all of your social media, and you can go ahead and share it wherever you want. So here's Legisector. You think that's bad? Let me show you something even worse. It would be tempting to think this is just Colorado, right? They're crazy, whatever, it'll never pass. And you can see exactly the stage that it's at on BillCam. Now, if you go to Legisector, where you can actually search by family or by agriculture or cannabis, energy, healthcare, by environment, I may have mentioned agriculture, energy, and again, any one of 27 verticals. Well, you see something absolutely terrifying. This lets you search by keywords. So I searched by the word transgender, and I searched the category family, right?
You want me to search it for you? Because I actually called up the window on my
baby.
end.
I mean, you're welcome to, but I want to keep showing what I've called up.
Okay, but the window that's up right now is controlled by my computer. So do you want me to type it for you, or do you want to just call it up on your own?
Window is controlled by your computer. No, I mean, people can see what I'm.
Oh no, this is me.
Okay,
this is
all right,
me.
sweetheart.
Yeah.
Sure. Why don't you go in and search family and transgender?
Okay, where do I start? Why don't you walk
Why
me
can't
through
I just
this?
present my computer?
Why don't you do that? Go ahead.
Right. Yeah,
I'll take this off the
yeah,
stage
baby.
and
Yeah, yeah. Do it. Okay, there we
okay,
go.
right. Okay, all right.
Okay, I'm getting very techy. All right, so here we're searching by family, and I searched transgender, and you see here that you've got all these categories: voting rights, transportation, technology, telecommunications, healthcare, housing, real estate. On a less serious and more hopeful note, this is a fantastic tool for investing. If you're buying a house, you'll see where the sewage plant is being built, or you know funding for solar panels, or anything that helps you invest better. Finance and banking, if you're a hedge fund manager, it'll help you. If you're in crime or law enforcement, cannabis, alcoholic beverages, if you're a farmer, voting rights, right? It's an incredible tool for whatever sector you're in. But let me go now to family, and you search, and what you see is this. It takes a minute to go through all the state and federal bills, so bear with me. There we go. What you see is you've got identical bills, expands the duty of the Office of Children and Family Services concerning lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender runaway and homeless youth in New York State. It's a state bill. You can tell by this little icon, and that's going back to 2019. It was introduced. Here's another one in New York doing the same thing. So they're drilling down on what managing how minors are treated in relation to
Does
sexuality.
does Legisector Auto does it update itself? Do
Yes,
we
it
have
does.
more recent bills in there? Because
It is by most recent, in date order, most
okay,
recent first. But what I'm showing is that this is something that's been in the works for a while. You go back to 2018, there it is again. And this is also New York. You also in 2018 expands the duties of the Office of Children and Family Services, same issue, also New York. This passed the Assembly in 2016, same issue. So this is an effort that is going back for years to create an environment in which the sexuality of minors is having more and more government facilities, now schools and healthcare, engaged with it, right? And here, New York, New York, New York, and here we have Massachusetts. So, and this is not about minors, it's about elders. So Massachusetts wants to make sure that if there's government funded facilities for elders, that their sexuality and sexual identity has funds devoted to managing it. So I just wanted to show you that, because it means that what's going on in Colorado is not not what is the word, just that state. And you can also see that it's also a very blue bill. And here are the sponsors. You can see them: blue, 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 blue. Now, if you don't like this bill, or you want to do away with it, because it is now the law, right? So family services are managing the sexuality of your child. If your child runs away from home, which a lot of kids do, and they fall into the clutches of any state, New York State entity dealing with minors, they are going to deal with your child's sexuality, which is so perverse. But if you don't like it, you can fax them, which is a little old fashioned. You can phone them, you can email them, and they can hear from you. So that is Legisector, and I wanted to show you that this is really not, what's happening. Let me do it in family. What's
hey, I just want
happening?
to
Yeah.
just really quickly let you know that it is 7:43.
Oh my God. All right.
Yeah.
So let me move on to our next subject. Is there anything else you want to say about that, honey, before we
That
move
bill. No, I was just kind of reading through. I downloaded the PDF while you were talking, and we talked earlier about Marxists changing the language. The language that stuck out at me just on a quick skim of this is they use if you misgender or dead name a child, and you it's considered coercive action.
Right.
So they're
Coercive
not
control, baby. Coercive control.
coercive control. That's right. And so they're not using like abuse or harm anymore. They've switched again. And this is really, it's interesting because it kind of reminds me of the intelligence community. If you did intelligence operations, actually going out and doing things, it was very dangerous. So we had different names and different labels for things inside an agency, and then there were public facing terms.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these terms people throw around today, like limited hangout and stuff, those aren't actually used inside. But it's the same thing. What the reason they do that is because if, let's say someone gets into one of those computer systems,
Mm-hmm.
they won't really know what they're looking at. So it's the same thing here. Every bill, every iteration, the language changes, the definitions change. So it's impossible to track down this bill that said you'd cause harm to this definition because that will have changed. And so that's why I think it's so important to, like use the bookmark function on Legisector and keep track of these things and pay for anyone who's not used to reading bills. Like it's just like anything. When I read anything really technical, I always keep a dictionary with me. When I read a bill, I look up things. I look up every definition. Like, what is a child in Colorado?
Mm-hmm.
For instance, a child in HHS is like 21 years old.
Oh, wow.
So you got to look at and like, what is coercive? What's the
Well,
definition
what is
of that?
coercive control? You have a criminology.
I haven't. Honestly, that
Sounds
could.
bad.
It's dependent on on that lawmaking body. It seems they can define things within their state
Right.
any way they want. That doesn't mean it will hold up at the federal level, like in the Supreme Court. But for now, this is what Marxists do. Yeah. They know they're not going to get a touchdown with this. They know it's probably going to, it's so unconstitutional just reading it. They know that, but it gets the ball down the field another inch, another foot. Slow and steady wins the race. That's what they do.
Well, one reason, yeah, you make such good points, sweetheart. One reason I really think people should look at these bills on legisector.com is I used to be a Democrat my whole life, but I I talked to my mom, and she always lets me use her as an example of like the thoughtful liberal. So she was going to a protest in the state capitol against censorship to get a Democrat on the school board. And I said, Mom, are you sure that's what you want? These Democrats are trying to get absolute pornography into school libraries. And she's like, I don't believe that, right? I don't think that's true. And which is like liberals' first line of defense. God bless you, Mom. I love you, but you're not right about this. And
that just means that someone didn't research.
Well, I mean, not my mom.
No, it sounds like your mom. God, and you know what? I love her, but me and her are buddies. I think she likes me better than you. But it's terrible, but it's true. But the thing, it absolutely is. So she told me that. She sent me a text today that said, "I like you better than Naomi."
You must have had a bad day.
With an emoji attached with thumbs up. It was random. But what I am saying is that that's usually language. When someone says "I feel" or I think or I believe in something like that means I believe she's a good person. Well, no one knows if someone's a good person or not, so no one believes someone's a good person.
Well, can I go back to...
No, because I haven't had to talk at all. So
You're so cranky, baby.
I'm bringing misogyny back, man. I'm taking over this mic. But the thing is, it's like someone who's done due diligence and kind of research their candidate will say, well, I like their issues on this, this, and this. But when good person comes into it, they don't know who the person is.
She didn't say she's a good person. She just said she wanted to get the Democrat.
No, you said, do you know if this person's good? Or I believe you said.
No, I said, do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, and she said, I think it is.
No, baby. What she said was, I said, because Democrats want to get pornography into middle schools. And she said, I don't think that's true. Which, to her credit, I just want everyone to hear the full respect that I have for my mom, and you do too.
Yeah, I love Deborah. She's great.
We both are crazy about my mom. So when you give her the evidence, she goes where the evidence goes. So she hasn't seen, and I hadn't seen, the incredibly graphic pornography that is masquerading as, trans youth support in middle schools. But where I was going with that is, it's very important, to look at these bills and to look at the sponsors, which is so visible on Legisector and on BillCam, because you can't pretend the Democrats are not behind this, right? And you might be a full-blown Democrat. I'm not saying the Republicans are perfect or, even great in a lot of contexts, but you need to know who's supporting what and what these parties are really doing. Some really good bills are bipartisan bills, but it is shocking. You can't pretend, and you could be a fully liberal Democratic parent, but a lot of parents looking at that language that I just read to you on BillCam of HB 1312 in Colorado are going to go, holy heck, that is not what I voted for. I don't agree with that. The other thing I want to say, which is really scary, is I really want to surface to all of you that you can lose your child. You can lose your child in a custody battle. If one parent is willing to say Ellis and the other one doesn't want the child's, vagina reconstructed into a penis or vice versa, the parent who doesn't want the child's vagina or penis reconstructed, who just wants to take it day by day, or maybe start a new sport, or, read a book or something, and, let puberty unfold without intervening in some permanent tragic way, that is the parent who's going to lose the child in a custody dispute. So people really have to understand that. Is there anything else you want to say before we talk very briefly, which I promised to do, about Casey Means, sweetheart?
No, I don't know who Casey Means is.
Okay.
I don't. We follow different things. I could tell you about New York's gun laws. I could tell you about China manipulating the price of pork and screwing Spain over, and that's why they shut out their lights.
Well, baby, do you want to go a little longer, and then you can tell us about what's on your mind?
No, because I have my own show, and I want to control the mic. I don't want to talk about the Colorado weirdos out there. I'm sorry, but that place is total CCP out there.
Okay, baby.
Wait. Quick story. I gotta say it because I have to hop off, and I want people to know that I have a voice.
Oh my God.
I have a voice. Okay, everyone, get out your pens and pencils and write this down. Go to my Twitter account, which is @Brian O'Shea, SPI. But the reason I say that about Colorado, here's the reason. Many other things have happened there. One that really stands out in my mind is, do you recall the so-called racist Georgia voting bill right for the midterms?
Sort of. Remind me.
So basically, Georgia changed their laws for voting, which require an ID, but actually expanded the hours one could vote.
Right. Very racist.
And then all of a sudden, Warnock, down there, the senator from Georgia, and of course, who? Stacey Abrams.
Yeah, I remember
the election. The election denier herself, who still thinks she won the governorship. Mm-hmm. She was one of the loudest voices. Okay, and this is April of 2022. It's this racist. This is this. This is that. And then they were interviewing, like Fox was interviewing black folks down there in Atlanta, and they're like, they say it's racist because you have more trouble getting an ID than white people. And they're like, I got 3 IDs, man. I don't have any trouble. And it was just ridiculous. And also that the MLB, Major League Baseball, pulled the championships out of Atlanta, taking with it about $98 million in seasonal revenue that those people rely on, when they get those jobs at the stadium and everything. Took that $98 million in revenue right out of Atlanta, which is 89% black, and moved it to whitest Colorado, which is Denver, which is like 11% black. So I'm not sure how that helped the black people of Georgia, but that was because of Warnock and Stacey Abrams. Mm-hmm. 3 days later, MLB re-signs their deal with Tencent, which is a major CCP multimedia company, one of the biggest in the world, for live streaming of Major League Baseball in China.
Oh my God.
Okay. Yeah. What also happened was, so they re-signed that deal, And then what happens after that? Stacey Abrams gets really quiet. So, like 4 days later, she ends up getting a new job at blackvoicesmatter.org next to her sister. Major pay raise. So, you look into that blackvoices.org. The major donor of that is the Joseph and Clara Tsai Foundation, TSAI. Joe Tsai is one of the co founders, along with Jack Ma, of Alibaba. He purports to be from Taiwan, but this guy figured out that, oh no, he was born in mainland China, and it's my opinion that he is the highest placed covert influence asset, an agent provocateur placed in this country by the CCP. And for those of you that don't know Joe Tsai, he owns and operates the Paul Tsai Center in Yale, which is their legal center. He runs the China Forum out of the UCs. Jake Sullivan is one of his alumni at both places, the former national security advisor. And he owns the New York Nets as well, along with several. He's like the eighth richest guy in this country.
Oh my God.
And he has 3 passports, maybe 4. I've got tons of stuff on him. I did some research for a nonfiction writer on him. And I've got mounds of information that I've been trying to get to so I could publish. So that's Colorado for you, and many other things. But I'll yield.
Well, but wrap it all together, baby. What was the point?
Well, the whole point is, like, Colorado, when I say get back to those weirdos in Colorado, I guarantee this is like 6 degrees to Kevin Bacon. This is like 3 degrees to the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party.
The trans movement pushing for taking your child away. It's actually a Chinese party, Communist Party.
Well, think about what this bill does. This bill does the same thing that Mao Zedong was doing to Chinese families. Totally. It breaks them apart. It removes the father and the mother as central figures in the core nuclear family.
Right.
Okay. And it makes the government the safe refuge for the child. That's exactly what Mao did. That's why he had communes. That's why he had people scrap all their metal so they couldn't cook at home, so they couldn't meet at home. Because the family, there's a couple things that compete with the state in communist-run systems. Mom and dad, God, whichever God you believe in, okay, and organizations that are not sanctioned by the Chinese Communist Party. That's what this does. That's what this bill does. It also helps identify and act punitively against people who obviously are not towing the Marxist, aka DNC line. Okay, you identify them right away if they disagree with these policies or they end up in court. That person will be marked in Colorado for life.
Oh, wow.
And they will be, as you know, if they were using Mao's class system back in the Red Terror, they will be black class.
Oh my gosh. Well, and what you're describing, I can see it all unfolding exactly as you say, but it also adds a very Chinese Communist Party vibe of fear in schools and in the home, right? Because you're scared of your child. If you say something wrong, you'll lose your child if you say something wrong. And if you're a teacher, you're scared of your students. I mean, I'm just thinking about the Cultural Revolution when students would like point out, teachers of theirs and denounce them, and they'd get sent off to, work camps or whatever. It creates an atmosphere of fear in the school, like fear and grooming. Everything you're saying makes sense to me, honey. And I guess my only question there, while I've got you, and I'm going to go over a little bit so that I can cover Casey, which I promised to do. She's President Trump's new Surgeon General nominee as of
okay, gotcha.
So it's don't worry, you were driving. You don't have to.
No, I've learned long ago in the last 4 years that I stick with a few topics, because if you try to cover them all, you're not that effective. I'd rather have a couple well-placed shots and a couple well-placed targets than shooting bird shot at everything.
Absolutely, but
I went shooting today. Can you tell?
Were you shooting? What were you shooting, sweetheart?
I shot everything.
What did you really? Was that kind of day?
22, the Glock, the 12 gauge. The reason why I did that is because some Democratic candidate that's running this summer, I guess we have some weird elections up here. They were just leaving, so I took out the shotgun and I started shooting out the the backyard into the target so they could hear it.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wait. There was someone campaigning in our
No,
neighborhood.
they just came by with their little flyers. Very nice. I answered the door with my red MAGA hat. I said, "Oh, well, good luck to you." And then as they were going up our long driveway, I said, "Oh, why not?" And I went out the back door and shot at the backyard targets so they could hear the gunshots. And, I almost called our Hells Angels buddies to come down and have some coffee while they were there, but I couldn't get a hold of them.
But baby, why? What was your-
Because they're all Marxists. And, honestly, I've got no room for Marxists. I know we feel differently about this. I don't give them an inch. I don't give them a platform. I don't even give them my ear.
How
I'll
do you
nod
know
my
they were
head.
Marxists?
What's that?
How do you know they were Marxists?
Because they're Democrats.
Woo. So there's no, in your view, no Democrat who's
Not anymore.
wow.
It's my belief that the Democrats were infiltrated by the Comintern probably back in the 50s. That's when our intel community was infiltrated during World War II because everyone was so focused on fascism.
Right. Okay. Well, we'll be popular in the neighborhood.
This is good coming on your show. It gets me warmed up. Like my audience is never shocked by any of this. They're like in the audience going, yeah, that's right. And then they're sending me pictures of their neighbor they spied on. I've got the Investigate Everything Army, everyone. That's the one you want to join. It's awesome. Help me beat her number of followers.
It's not a competition.
Yes, it is. Everything's a competition.
Oh my God. So what did you shoot at?
The targets you keep telling me to take down.
Okay.
Oh, I also shot. I found an old spaghetti squash that was ready.
Oh, did you kill
We'd
the
forgotten
spaghetti
about
squash?
that. Yeah, I mean, paper targets are one thing, but there's nothing better than exploding fruit and vegetables.
I love it when you peel off the watermelons and the spaghetti squash and they explode. It is
Well, in other local news, I was talking to the motorcycle club, as they like to refer to themselves yesterday. I was sitting
we
with
do
about.
have just to
Go ahead.
we do no, I'm just telling everyone we do have a really nice group of Hells Angels at the end of our street.
I
And
love them. They're
the
great.
leader is one of our good friends. But go ahead, sweetheart. What were you saying?
Yeah, and anyone who wants to follow one of them, his name's Hammer Joe on TikTok. The guy's
Oh.
hilarious. Yeah, he's hard, but he's hilarious. But yeah, we're sitting there when at the lawn shows. I was walking the dog, and they're about 4 houses down, as you know, and I see him out there. He's like, "Hey, come on over." And I was like, "Yeah, all right." So I had a seat, and actually, the biggest guy there just fell in love with Loki. It was hilarious.
Who's our little puppy?
Yeah, and so in other news, apparently we got some undercover cops creeping around. There's I've seen the car. They're after these guys because they raid them every year. Every time they have a barbecue, they raid these guys.
But I've been to those barbecues. There's unless there's something going on that I can't see. They're really
No, it's just harassment. It's harassment, and it's really ramping up because I asked him. I said, "Do you think it's political?" He's like, "I don't know," and I said, it seems odd that they would ramp that up now. I mean, New York is understaffed as it is with police. And that's the thing is like, I think they would love to catch these guys with something because the local politicians here, they're all from the city. They're all far left. They're what we call leaf peepers or summer homers. They would like nothing better than to get people like you and I and, the Diamond Rattlers out of our hamlet or town.
Oh,
They the same people that like turned in our neighbor across the street for having too many chickens under Hamlet rules. She fought back by getting ducks, which I think is hilarious. And she's going to change it from a hamlet to a town, which is fantastic. But that's the thing is this is valuable real estate. And I think that's what's going on. And where those guys have their clubhouse, I think there's two things going on. The summer homers don't like the noise.
right.
Even those guys are awesome and they are family friendly. Their oath is honor, courage. I'm gonna ruin it. Honor, courage, protect the family, protect the nation, protect the ladies.
They really
Ladies and children. Yeah.
Wow.
That's why we went to a baptism there.
Right. No, it was very charming and
Well, the running joke now, you know what the running joke is, right?
no, I don't, baby. What is it?
So I kind of got swatted about a year ago, audience, where Naomi and I had gone to the barbecue, which was hilarious because the summer homers, They
I know some of our neighbors probably watch this show.
I
Just
don't good. Good.
okay.
They know I don't care if the leaf peepers don't like me. They don't like me anyways. It
Let your
doesn't
flag
matter.
fly, baby. Go for it.
That's right. They could talk to Mr. Glock if they want to. But the thing is,
Oh my God! Now you're going to get arrested for
I'm
communication.
not going to get arrested for anything. No way. Never going to happen. But the never seen. So, anyways, about a year ago, Naomi and I went to this barbecue. There were two barbecues going on too, which was funny because there was these guys' barbecue, the motorcycle clubs, and then the Leaf Peepers decided they wanted their own barbecue. Leaf Peepers, Marxists, whatever you want to call them, and they set up their own. And so, we're bouncing between the two because they're all our neighbors. I gotta admit though, there was way better food at the motorcycle clubs, and so I kind of hung out over there. Whereas like the other one, nice people, I guess, but like I felt like I was at a job interview, and where I could just let my hair down at the other one, and they were just a lot more welcoming. And one thing about this motorcycle club, they protect our whole neighborhood, no matter who you are. They're better than the police, and so Naomi and I leave because we had to go to the Boston area to go see my son that weekend. So what I like to do is when I'm heading to the Boston area, I can't really do any target practice there. So I like to at least squeeze off a couple rounds because I try to shoot something every day. I hadn't that day. So while she's in the car, Naomi, I go out back and I take like 3 shots, at the 25-meter target. Then I'm good. As soon as then a year later, about 2 months ago, I'm walking and I sit with our neighbor, Mike, and he goes, "Hey, I heard you shot your wife." And I go, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, man." And he tells me that apparently right after we left that barbecue, someone called the state troopers and said that Brian O'Shea had shot his wife.
Oh my God.
And then they raided the whole hamlet. They wouldn't let anyone leave. They had the motorcycle guys like in handcuffs and everything. They said to our neighbor, "Can we go inside and look around?" He's like, "Nope," and that was it. And they were looking for us. Apparently, they didn't do a good job because it's pretty easy to find that old Prius we were driving. But that's the first I ever heard of it,
Wow.
But basically, someone in this neighborhood called the cops and said that I'd shot you. And so now that's the running
Weird thing. Why wouldn't they just have reported the sound of shotgun blasts? Why would
Well,
they?
it's a weird thing because everyone around here shoots. A lot of people don't understand about New York. Once you're out of Manhattan, it's pretty red for
Baby,
the
do you
most
think
part.
someone was trying to SWAT us? I mean,
Yes, obviously, yes. And I think I know who it is too. I got two suspects. But so now these guys are having another barbecue, their annual barbecue. They usually get, and for those that don't know, the Hells Angels is like the national type of, organization. And then there's regional chapters, sub chapters, all that. So the state chapter here, our neighbor is the president of, so that's pretty big deal. And he'll have the other chapters in. So they're like, it's almost like mini sub gangs, or I'm sorry, clubs. And they all converge. You've been to these.
yes.
But they had like baptisms. They invite the whole community. Everyone is welcome. They put on a really nice like Halloween thing for the kids. These are great guys. And so they're having their annual barbecue, and this car stopped, and they said to, Mike and the boys, who, if you don't know them, you're not going to stop. You probably won't stop.
They are
and ask.
so little scary. Mike has tattoos on his face.
Yeah, he's the at his age, he's the deadlift world record holder. He's 75.
Yes.
And he just won another one. So apparently this guy stops just 2 days ago, as Mike was telling me. He says, "Oh, we're looking for the historical landmark, blah, blah, blah." Mike's like, "It's right around the corner." And then he goes, "You guys look like outlaws." And I said, "Now, Mike, no tourist would say that."
No.
And I said, "Were these two guys a couple? Were they hitting on you?" And he's like, "Definitely not." He's like, "They were feds, man." He goes, "I know a fed when I know." I said, "I know you do." Because no one would say that unless they
I can't imagine anyone taking their life in their hands to say such a thing.
Yeah, so that was so we kind of set up a net all around here, and we got some cameras out, and we got a plan to
Or
mess with.
maybe someone just, Mark Palermo just said the bodyguard 25 about you, and it's true. People who know our story know that I met
Thanks.
Brian
I like Mark. Hey, Mark,
Palermo.
welcome.
Yeah. But are you saying that you are, I mean, you sometimes do this, which I appreciate. Are you letting the world know that there's a perimeter of danger around our house so no one will swat us? Is that the purpose of your description?
Well, no, look, I mean, they could try to swat us up here, but the thing is, it's like, I've already gone to the police. I've, I volunteered at the fire department, and the volunteer thing, and I'll probably be directing traffic or something. But, that's the first thing I did when all these swattings really ramped up about 2 months ago. Is I went to as many jurisdictions as I could, said who I was, said who you were, gave them my number, and then of course I have cameras with microphones, so there's they're not going to come in here guns blazing, and that's just the long and short
But
of
I
it.
mean, baby, I'm asking, are you like saying this publicly so that
No, I'm saying it's because I'm Irish and it's a good story. I could go all night. I mean, seriously, like I could tell you a million stories from my last 24 hours in the woods alone with a dog.
I can tell when you've been in the woods alone with the dog.
Yeah, man, that's right. The only other people I've talked to is the veterans at the hospital, which they got some great stories. I used to think I was badass. These guys are badass, and I don't mean like Vietnam badass. I'm talking like the stuff they do at bars badass. So it's always a pleasure to talk to them.
Thank you for your service, baby.
Well, thanks for having me.
Well, sweetheart, it's so fun to talk to you. I hate to let you go. Do you want to share more, or
No, I'm good. I need to get going.
Well, do you want to stay for a few minutes and listen to Kelly Means?
I have to go because I got to set up my own show, and let me actually mention my show, and that
Please.
right after that'd be a good time for you to mention our sponsors. But let me mention our show first. My show. Let me see here. So everyone, if you want to really, I'm digging into the Luigi Mangione United Healthcare case. I'm digging into Karen Bass out in California. I think she had those fires commissioned personally. Everything I do is totally sourced, well sourced, deeply sourced, ongoing investigations. Here's another unpopular thing. Based on my research, I don't think Luigi Mangione is the shooter. And then those are the things we look at. Right now, we're going to start digging into Afghanistan because we're taking a turn on this, Naomi, where we want to help the Trump administration investigate and prosecute as many of the crimes we've seen in the last 4 years as possible. So right now, I've been dedicating my time, which will publish next week, but dedicating my time to the Afghanistan withdrawal, where I have it from Blinken's own mouth that ISIS-K, as of July 2015, a month before it fell, Afghanistan fell, that ISIS-K was not a threat anymore, and that they'd moved to North Africa. That's in an official State Department memo. I downloaded everything the minute August 15th happened. I also have it where, like, systematically, all the major media heads that were independent journalists from Afghanistan, like Afghanis, 3 car bombs right before August 15th.
Oh my God.
They took them all out. And here's one other thing I always ask the audience, and this is how my show goes for those who might tune in for the first time. One thing I did say was, hey, you ever notice, like, when Taliban captures Americans or contractors, or when ISIS does, what do? They parade the bodies around the street. They do horrible things to the corpses. Did you see one Afghan National Defense Force, which are our guys? You see one body?
No.
You see one burning? You see any hostages?
No, I saw no violence at all.
No, that's because they just changed their uniforms. That's what happened. And do you know China never closed their embassy the whole time?
Maybe this is a huge.
Oh, we go on, and the other night we have an open investigation. Last one I'll mention, where the blackout last week on the Iberian Peninsula that affected Spain, Portugal, and Germany and France. We have 3 theories right now. I think China did it because they are They own 25% of the European network of electricity. And they were in negotiations with Spain for pork because they canceled our pork exports. And then they leaned on Spain. Hey, we need some pork because it's their biggest consumable over there. And then Spain was kind of like, and they also said to the EU, do not side with the United States on this tariff war. And then Spain kind of rocked a little, and then the lights went out, and then they went back on. And then the next day, Spain announces that they're just struck a deal to export pork to China. And see, now China's driving a hard bargain because now that they've signed the deal, it's dependent on commodity prices, the prices of pork. You pay at the market price. Now, all of a sudden, right after that deal gets signed, bird flu is affecting pork in the EU.
Oh my gosh.
And who's in that commission? Like 3 CCP members.
Oh, God. It's so transparent.
And you know, Scott Bessent said, you do business with China, you'll be slitting your own throat. And he's right.
He said that?
Yep.
Wow, that's pretty bold of him.
And he's mild-mannered guy. I like him, but you know, yeah.
Wow. Well, you always show the hidden hand, baby. It's impossible.
Just follow the money.
It's impossible to understand world events without Brian O'Shea showing where to look and investigating everything. This is really helpful. I think that people should go to your show and hear you expand on each one of these things, but especially because it's so important and suggestive, your theory of Afghanistan, which you just...
Oh, there's so many. There's so many. I mean, that's what I miss about... look, the one thing I miss about the Biden administration is they were so corrupt that there was always a new case to investigate, like every day.
Right.
Every day there was something new to investigate. It's like, oh, look, they're trying to steal the rings of Saturn, you know, or... oh, they want to rename the Catholic Church, Palace Playland. I mean, they were always doing something really messed up. And I kind of miss having, like, you know, a la carte full buffet of horribleness to choose from to investigate. So now I actually have to do some work and dig. And, you know, thank God for my audience. They send me some great leads. Love my audience. But here is the show for everyone that wants to know where it is. And you could also go to dailyclout.io and you'll find all of our shows. They're wonderful shows, including this lovely lady right here, you know, with the, the great hair and the winning smile and the awesome mother. And by the way, if you get a chance, check out this Dexter Taylor one. Naomi, I'll let you talk about that at some point if you want to, about the New York insane Marxist gun laws.
Yeah.
Did a great interview. You see, there's our friend, Father Calvin Robinson was on. He's been targeted, and then lots of good shows on there. But if you just scroll through, you'll see them all. Please make sure when you go over there, you hit that follow button. And if so inclined, you can join the Daily Clout community by hitting the join button. But follow the show. Help me beat Naomi Wolf's audience numbers. I'm depending on you.
Oh, that's so
Even
funny.
if you don't watch it, just go hit the follow button. It's free.
Well, you won't regret it, everyone.
You won't regret it.
Sin O says, you two are awesome patriots. Thank you for your streams. That's so sweet. Baby,
Thanks for being here.
No, baby, stay, go as you wish. But I promised people I would.
Yeah, I'm going to hop off. I got to take the dog for a walk.
If you don't have to, because I love to see your face.
I think the dog just peed in your shoes, so I better go check that out. He didn't pee in my shoes because I'm feeding him, but yes. I'll go check. He's awfully quiet. I got to go investigate that. That means something's happening.
Okay, baby. If you need to
go,
I'm not gonna.
All right, outspoken crowd. Good to see you, and I will talk to you soon. Naomi, have a great show.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thanks for joining. Okay, bye, baby. Thanks, everyone. So, as I promised, this is Casey Means. So, Maha has had a horrible, gut-wrenching set of events because a really bad nominee for Surgeon General was introduced initially by President Trump. I have trouble pronouncing her name, but she was withdrawn, and here we are. The nominee was Jeanette Neshewat, and Maha hated Jeanette Nashewat, because Jeanette Nashewat was a big COVID fascism supporter, and her credentials came into under scrutiny last month. CBS News reported that records showed that she had graduated from the American University of the Caribbean School of Medicine and not the University of Arkansas School of Medicine, as had been said when her nomination was announced. That's not good. No administration wants to be blindsided, and that's from The Hill, by an inaccurate bio, let alone inaccurate credentials. That's very, very bad. I'm surprised, really, honestly, that error could have been allowed to proceed. But I just want to credit my former co-host Emerald Robinson of Lindell TV and The Absolute Truth, because she was saying, and I was saying in our show, that the MAGA and MAHA teams are not vetting people thoroughly enough. They are not doing opposition research. They're not getting NDAs. And so that got through. So she got pulled today and replaced by someone even worse in some ways, and that, in my view, and that's Casey Means. So Casey Means is one of a duo of confusingly named, both names, you know, like people can name their kids whatever they want, but both names are so gender ambiguous that people frequently mix them up. Whatever, you know, party on with your gender ambiguous name. But her brother is Callie Means, and they appeared out of nowhere, right? And they were positioned in the media about 6 months ago, 8 months ago, out of nowhere as MAHA celebrities. And this was after real MAHA leaders like Dr. Henry E. Lee and, you know, RFK Jr. for that matter at that point, and Jay Bhattacharya and Martin Kulldorff, you know, real heroes. Kevin McKernan had been toiling away, losing everything, putting their careers and lives, their careers in jeopardy, losing their livelihoods. And they weren't catapulted to the top by the media. But when it became clear that there might be a MAGA MAHA victory, Callie and Casey Means again appeared out of nowhere. I will say, and this is just me subjectively, to me, there are a lot of things that are very dodgy about both Callie and Casey Means. And this is once more me being an independent journalist, not owned by the Trump, you know, news outreach organization, not owned by anyone. I'm just bringing you the truth, bringing you my opinion and my evidence. They are not kosher. They both, there were things that raised red flags for me about both of them, but I know about publishing, and out of nowhere, Casey Means had a bestseller, and it was a New York Times bestseller, and the book is called Good Energy, the surprising connection between metabolism and limitless health, literally published out of nowhere, all over. There's a cookbook, there's you know, hardcover, on Audible. I mean, every single kind of format, but it was a #1 New York Times bestseller. #1 New York Times bestseller. Mark Hyman, who's a kind of New York Times kind of legacy media health commentator, gave her a quote. And this was published by a major publishing house. So I'm just going to tell you, I've been a nonfiction writer for like 42 years. It is very, very difficult to get a New York Times bestseller. It is almost impossible to get a #1 New York Times bestseller. And if you've never published a book before, it is virtually impossible to get a book contract with a major publisher, let alone a giant publicity tour, which it seemed like this book got, let alone coverage in many major news outlets. It's unheard of, right? Unheard of. So somehow this materialized out of nowhere. then having credentialed Casey Means with this #1 New York Times bestseller, do you know how many books you have to sell in order to hit #1? In addition, she also happens to have a startup. She's never had a successful exit before. I looked at her bio. Maybe I'm missing something, but it seems to be also her first startup, right? First book, #1 bestseller, first startup. She founded a startup called Levels, and Levels measures your like glucose levels, your metabolic levels, and harvests the data. So she's a female co-founder with no success in the tech world. She's a medical doctor, right? Suddenly became a tech founder, not a technologist, not a coder, not a venture capitalist, not any of the things you need to create a successful technology company. But out of nowhere, she suddenly gets, and if you look online at Levels and investors, you see an incredible journey. So January 31st of 2023, Business Wire reports a $7 million Series A extension, okay, for this Levels startup. Then there's a year before, there's a $38 million Series A around Levels, $38 million Series A fundraise, a milestone for the company. It includes 5 million raised exclusively from a crowdfunding raise, which is really interesting. How do you do that for, shareholders? A lot of people haven't solved that question, but it's a $38 million Series A. And what is its valuation? $300 million valuation. $300 million valuation. So who are some of the funders going back to April of 2022? And this was updated in 2023. The funders are deep in Silicon Valley. Basecamp Fund, Andrea Funston, Ben Gilbert and David Rosenthal, Lenny Rachitsky and the Airbnb Alumni Syndicate, CrossFit Athlete, Shrug and Shrug Capital, Trust Ventures. They raised $50 million with support from other venture capitalists deep in Silicon Valley. I'm going to read that again, $300 million valuation for a startup from a woman who has never built a tech company before. Ever. And I'm a female founder of a tech company, and I will tell you, 5% of venture capital funding goes to female founders. There's huge discrimination against women in the startup world. But somehow this chick waltzes in, I'm not trying to be rude, with no track record at all. And all of these big Silicon Valley investors are racing to fund it and give it a $300 million valuation. So then you go on and you see another Series A extension, and then you see that the big money comes in to fund this, and what you get is Andreessen Horowitz, and Mark Anderson of Anderson Horowitz, and you get people from Google and people from deep in Silicon Valley, and you get kind of another 53 million Series A. It's just unbelievable how many deep Silicon Valley investors are racing to invest in this startup from a woman who has never, ever built a successful business before, let alone a technology business. And Andreessen Horowitz, Intellectual Ventures, these are the people behind, the biggest companies that you've heard of, household names, right? Let's look at Andreessen Horowitz so I can give you some examples. It's a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley, investing in founders and innovators. And like, I mean, I can't even describe how deep in the Google nexus the Andreessen Horowitz is. Okay, so this is super weird. Like, I literally have never seen a bio like this in my life, right? And then she's testifying before Congress, before the election, which is also weird. She's never testified before Congress before. So basically what I'm trying to say is this is a medical doctor who has a technology company. Is it hugely profitable? Not that I can tell. It seems to have 60,000 users, but it was founded in 2019. So that's not huge growth. So why is it worth $300 million? $300 million. All right, what does it do? It harvests biometrics. That's what it does. It harvests your biometrics. And in the terms of service, Callie Means, her brother, got really mad at me on X when I pointed out that Casey Means harvests biometrics in her company, and also that Callie Means, the brother, also harvests your biometrics in his company, which sells products that you wear on your body that harvest your biometrics, right? But I always look as a tech CEO at terms of service because it's the data that are valuable. And everyone in the health data field in Silicon Valley are mad at HIPAA, the federal law that prevents your medical data from being shared and monetized. They're mad because all of your medical data is very, very valuable for, to be monetized. Well, if you look at Level's terms of service, it says that Casey Means can share your data from her devices from Levels with the government and with third parties in private industry. So you sign away your medical privacy when you join the Levels community and use her product. Well, that's exactly the business model that Palantir and Musk and Google want to get into. And it's, again, also Callie Means, the guy, is also harvesting your biometrics. And he got really mad at me. I said on X that it was a biometrics company or a biotech company. He said, and he called me unhinged and publicly. And then I showed that, okay, fine, it's not biotech, it's biometrics, and that they're harvesting your biometric data. So that's who these people are. So they were made, in my analysis, into celebrities quite artificially by the kind of Silicon Valley machine of media and propaganda. And then, having been newly minted as Maha heroes, they are perfectly positioned to go into our government. And this was a warning I gave on War Room about 2 months ago about Elon Musk, and I was right? I warned that Elon Musk would use his own AI on our government data. He did use his own AI on our government data. I warned that there could be a horrible security breach if people use third-party platforms with government confidential data. The Signal breach, a huge scandal in which people were talking about highly classified information on Signal, and it got leaked. I warned about exactly that. I was right. So now, as a tech CEO, I'm saying this is the play. Turn Callie Means and Casey Means into Maha heroes. They are biotech, biometric harvesters who are cat's paws for Silicon Valley money, basically giant amounts of money being dumped into an entity that then you get her as Surgeon General. She gets to have her hands on America's medical data, confidential medical data. And that is the golden prize that Elon Musk was after as well, as well as all the rest of our data, in my view. Well, she gets there, she gets it. She persuades Trump to digitize it using a third party. Boom. Andreessen Horowitz, Google, the Google investors, the Airbnb investors, the Etsy investors, the X investors, all these Silicon Valley guys have 10x'd their $38 million investment, and a $300 million valuation becomes a $2 billion valuation. That's the play. Palantir, I mean, I haven't seen the connection to Palantir and her background, but, it's a small world, the Anderson Horowitz investment world. And this is what they do. They'll choose, it's like almost a pyramid scheme. They'll choose usually a guy, but in this case, 1 in a million, it's a girl. They'll choose a company. They'll decide it's incredibly valuable. This happened with, that woman who was disgraced, as you recall, who was doing weird DNA stuff. Now she's in prison, the blonde woman. They'll pump money into it. They'll get all their friends to pump money into it. Then they'll inflate the value, so much, and then they'll roll out. There will be an exit, and it just goes forward and goes forward, with everyone making giant amounts of money that are basically imaginary, until the whole thing collapses. So, but by then, the original investors are out. So that's the deal. But the golden acquisition is our nation's data. And so now she's been, presented as a Maha heroine. She was nowhere in the medical freedom movement until literally like a year ago. She appeared out of nowhere. She has no background to justify that being her role. And this is a cat's paw situation with Silicon Valley wanting to use Casey Means to suck up our right now HIPAA protected medical data because it's so valuable. So that's my and also just to digitize all of our medical data and our medical processes on third-party platforms, whereas right now they're digitized, it's clunky, but it's secure within government platforms. Like that's the Wild West. That's the dream that Silicon Valley has wanted to conquer that they haven't been able to till now. That's my analysis, everybody. I shared it with you. It's 1:30. I've been speaking for an hour and a half. We've been with you for an hour and a half, so I should stop. But A. Patrick Jonas, MD, thank you, says, great job going after the Means fake Mahas. And he also he or she, I guess he from the Patrick, also points out the CIA has tech startups, though. Absolutely. I mean, you've got to wonder at this point which of the really successful ones aren't. But yeah, you see a similar thing. I mean, I think of Facebook, these two college students, and then all of a sudden it's the biggest thing in the world with the biggest valuation in the world. I mean, some things catch fire, but organic business just does not work that way. So I have shared all of that with you, and I should really sign off. It's been so fun to talk to you. Thank you for letting me go over these two key issues and to bring my wonderful husband to talk to you as well. No one is smarter about world events from his decades as an intelligence operative, when he was embedded with special forces, and his years in the military as well. And he's the best investigator ever. And I'm very lucky that he saved my life, 10 years ago? And he just keeps saving my life every day. So, darling, I don't know if you're listening again in the background while you're, looking after Loki, but I appreciate you so much. And I appreciate all of you. And I'm going to go now, but remember, if you like independent journalism, I've just done a riff that will for sure get me not hired by this White House. So there's a cost for being this independent and honest. And as a result, we really depend on your sponsorship and support. So be sure to support our sponsors, Native Path, getnativepath.com/daily clout for that collagen, and Native Hydrate, which is keeping us so youthful and fit and healthy and glowy. And also go to TWC, TWC Health, /daily clout, and order their spike support or their emergency kits. And we're going to have a new sponsor shortly coming online. But in the meantime, subscribe. If you subscribe on Daily Clout, you get BillCam. If you go over to Legisector, you've got to sign up for Legisector. It's a little more expensive. It's more of a business expense, but if you're, again, in real estate, if you're an elected official, if you're in an advocacy role, you've got to know the laws. You've got to be ahead of them. If you're a hedge fund manager, if you're in energy, cannabis, you've got to have a legisector.com account. So go ahead and sign up for that as a B2B product. And lastly, go over to Outspoken on Substack. This is Substack Live, and become a paying subscriber, because that is how we keep independent, take care of our producers, our editors, our hey baby, our hosting, all of the things that we need to pay for to keep bringing you this independent news and opinion. Love you all. See you soon. And thank you, Substack Live, for the honor of making me a Substack Live show. Okay, bye-bye.